DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. So once again, I got to set the whole world straight on the situation that people seem to be looking at things in a very binary way, but we gotta explain the gray in the situation. So what a lot of people have been conditioned to think, based on a lot of it has to do with social media and the way we use the internet these days. Everything has to be black and white, one side or the other. But as I told you in episode 1777 of my show called Work on Your Game, the truth is rarely sexy. The truth is usually very ugly, is very gray, is messy. There's a lot to every side of the argument. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the Simone Biles situation in the Olympics right now over in Tokyo, where Simone pulled out of the team gymnastics competition. Now, before I go further into this video, I want to tell y'all that I have a text line where you can send me a text and tell me what you think of what you heard here today. If you got a question or a concern about anything, or you want to ask me something directly, of course you can leave it in the comments. You already know about that. But you can also text me. My number is 305-384-6894. It's down below in the show notes as well. Now, so here's what happened. Simone Biles is with Team USA. If you don't know who she is, she's the biggest name in gymnastics in the whole world right now. Has won several gold medals, won a bunch of gold medals in the last Olympics. This Olympics, she was back to win even more. She's basically taking Michael Phelps' place as the biggest star for Team USA in every sport in all the Olympics. So she came into this Olympics with a lot of expectations, a lot is expected of her. She obviously expected a lot of herself. She already has a title, at least of what I've heard. I don't follow the gymnastics world, but she has the title of being the GOAT of gymnastics. GOAT meaning greatest of all time. And she has embraced this title. We're going to come back to that in a moment. It's the reason why I'm pointing that out. So going into these games, before the day that this all happened, which happened on, I'm recording this on Wednesday, this happened on Tuesday, she had posted on her social media before that and said, even leading up to the games, hey, there's a lot of pressure on me, there's a lot of expectations on me, a lot of people are expecting a lot of me, and it's a lot sometimes, which makes sense. There's a lot there's so much being expected of her, and so much that she's going to have to deliver because everybody's looking at her. All eyes are on her coming into these games. I 100% understand that. So she gets and does her event. I believe it was the vault was the event that she was doing, and she was attempting to do a very difficult move. Didn't pull it off quite so well. Didn't get the score that everyone was expecting, and it kind of hurt the team's overall score. The USA, so while they're in this competition, they're battling with Russia for the gold medal, for the team gymnastics medal. And USA has recently, or historically, I guess the better word, dominated the gymnastics competition, or at least in recent history has dominated gymnastics. So they're usually expected to win gold. They're in a battle with Russia, and without Simone getting her best score, and then what happens is she pulls out. She tells the team, she goes back to the locker room, she gets evaluated by the medical professionals, whatever, and she pulls out. She tells her teammates, I'm going to pull out, I'm going to let you guys do this, and we didn't know what the hell was going on at the moment. Team USA finishes the competition, but they end up coming in second to Russia. It's a huge upset because USA was expected to win gold. And when Simone talks to the media, and then when USA Gymnastics put out a statement, they say that Simone consulted with the medical professional, whatever, for the gymnastics team. And because she had a medical issue, they were calling it a medical issue, didn't say what it was. It was something with her knee, something happened to her ankle, did she hurt her arm? What was it? The medical issue was she was just having some mental health challenges. Mental health challenges. Now, then she told the media, she kind of told the media exactly the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm dealing with some mental health issues. And she said, it just wasn't there for me mentally. It just wasn't clicking for me mentally the way that it needs to be. Being a high performer that she is, she understands she needs to be in a certain mental state to go and perform and do these moves that she does. Because, again, I don't follow the gymnastics world, but from what I have read and heard about her, that she does moves. She pulls off moves that other gymnasts don't even try, and she pulls them off to perfection and makes them look easy. So she needs to be in a certain state to be able to perform at that level, and because she wasn't in that state, she wasn't able to do her moves, and that's why she decided, hey, I'm not even going to participate in the rest of the competition. I'd rather one of my teammates who is in the right state, maybe not as talented as me, but is in the right state, let one of them do it. Maybe it gives the team a better chance to win. That was her reasoning for doing that, and that 100% makes sense. I understand that. What ended up happening, though, and this is what we're really talking about here, is that on the internet, and this is where we do all our conversing these days, on the internet, the conversation became, all right, there was one side of the argument saying, and this is the whole point, one side was saying Simone Biles is a hero because she has cited mental health on one of the biggest stages in the world, and instead of burying the mental health issue that she was dealing with and fighting through it and pushing through it and just being, mental tough discipline and just pushing herself through it and doing it anyway, she said, no, my mental health comes before what anybody else wants from me. It comes before Team USA. It comes before trying to win a gold medal. It comes before trying to prove that I'm tough. And she pulls herself out of the competition. So people are saying that she's a hero for doing this and citing mental health and not finishing the competition. Now, whether or not she does, and she also pulled out of an individual competition that she's supposed to do as of tomorrow. Again, I'm recording this on Wednesday. This will probably come out later on in the week. Now, she is up to possibly win medals in a bunch of individual competitions next week. And right now, she's in day-to-day status. They don't know if she's going to compete or not. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. So then the other side of this conversation, again, I'm recording this on Wednesday. As of Wednesday, the other side of the conversation is, all right, Simone Biles is not a hero because she quit. People are saying basically she quit on her team. She got in sports, what we call this is she kind of got the yips. The yips is something that happens with a kicker in football, NFL for American football, when kicker misses a couple easy kicks and then their mind is they're so jinxed in the mind that they can't kick straight anymore. Even when they have a kick that is relatively easy, they just can't do it. They get in a game situation and it gets to them. The pressure of the moment gets to them because they can't get out of their head the time they messed up before, and therefore they can't perform at the level that they used to be able to, even though they still have the skills. The skill didn't leave them. They just mentally can't unlock the skill. And this is the way that I talk about confidence all the time, is that having confidence means having that master key that unlocks all your skill. But when something's missing from your confidence, you can't unlock that skill. Even though you did not technically lose the ability, you can't tap into it. And that's exactly what happens with kickers in American football. It happens with golfers. It happens with pitchers in baseball. These exact things happen, is that there's just this mental block that they can't do the thing even though they still have the ability. That sounds like what happened with Simone Biles, and she basically said it in her own words, paraphrasing what she said. So the argument became this dichotomy between this binary black and white thing. Is she a hero for citing mental health and pulling out, or is she a quitter for not competing in the games? The answer is, of course, neither one. She is neither one. Is Simone Biles a hero? Now, she cited mental health. All right, is that a fair thing to cite? Yes. Mental health is something that we can't see, we can't touch, unlike a broken leg or a twisted knee or a twisted ankle, torn knee ligament. We can see when someone is physically injured. We got machines and doctors that can look at it and say, see, right here, this bone is broken, this person can't compete. Mental health is something that's all in the head, is all from the neck up. We all have heard the sayings, and everybody talks about how mindset is the foundation of success. I talk about that, mindset being the foundation. If your mind's not in the right space, does not matter what you can do physically, you will not be able to perform at your best level. Simone Biles is a living, breathing example of exactly this. That is 100% a fact. Y'all have heard the sayings, the cliches, that sports are 90% mental, and it's all from the neck up. These are 100% true. I 100% concur with all of that stuff. So Simone Biles, does she have a right to pull out of the competition if she's not mentally in the right space? Yes, she 100% does. Does that make her a hero for citing mental health on the biggest stage and not performing? I would say not so much. I wouldn't call her a hero for it. I would say it's fair game. She can do that if she wants to do it. But to call her a hero, I would say no. That is not a criticism of Simone Biles. I'm just saying she's not a hero. I'm saying she has a right to do it, but it doesn't make her a hero. Same way that when Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem, all right, is he a villain for taking a knee? No. But is he a hero for taking a knee? Also, no. There's a gray area. He has a right to do it, but I wouldn't say he's a hero for doing it. I mean, he drew attention to himself, but I wouldn't call him a hero. So, and again, because social media is created, the algorithms of social media are designed to create this black and white, and this, you're on one side of the argument or you're on the other side of the argument, and there's no room for a gray area, or the gray areas don't get promoted too much. This is how we end up with these arguments. So no, she's not a hero, but again, she's not wrong. Now, is Simone Biles a quitter for not finishing the competition with her teammates in Team USA Gymnastics? Well, first of all, let's get clear on what it means to be a quitter. What does that mean? To quit means to rid oneself of. It means to rid yourself of a situation. That's a dictionary definition of the word. Did Simone Biles quit? during the gymnastics competition? The answer is yes. Yes, she did quit. She quit the competition. She was expected to perform. Her team was expecting her to perform at a certain level. She exited the competition, pulled herself out because she was having some mental issues in her head. Is she a quitter for doing that in that moment? In this situation, did she quit? Yes, she did. She did quit. Now, that does not necessarily make her a bad person. It's not even a criticism of her. If Simone sees this video or someone on her team or a supporter sees her, I'm not criticizing her character, but is she a quitter in that moment, in that instance? Yes, you quit. If you quit, you're a quitter. All right, that's how it is. You quit, you're a quitter. That's what quitters quit, liars lie. You're a liar in that situation. Doesn't mean she's going to quit every time in life. Doesn't mean she quit any time in the past. Doesn't erase the gold medals that she won last Olympics or whatever she's going to win moving forward. But in that moment, did she quit? Yes, she did. That's 100% a fact. And this is the biggest challenge, again, with all of this, is that people don't want to recognize the gray areas in between the extremes. So, no, she's not a hero. She's not some person that we need to build a statue for because she cited mental health and pulled out of a competition. But she's also not the scum of the earth because she pulled out of the competition. It's somewhere in between the two. Again, the truth is rarely sexy. Now, as far as Simone Biles herself goes, most of y'all who are watching this video have some connection to sports. Either you play sports, you played past tense sports, or you pay attention to sports. That's why you're watching this video. We got to understand the culture of sports. We all already understand it, but let me remind you all the culture of sports, which is you get into a competition, you compete. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But quitting is worse than losing. And I think we all understand that. We all understand that that's the culture of sports. I don't care if you're a man, if you're a woman, what color you are, what country you come from, what organization you're representing. Quitting is lower than losing. A quitter is worse than a loser. A loser, at least you competed and you lost. If you're in a boxing match and somebody knocks you out, they knocked you out. They were just a better boxer that day. But if you quit in the middle of the match, you refuse to get off the stool, that's worse than you just going out there and getting beat up. We all understand that and we all accept that. We all know it. The challenge is with the current culture that we're in is that Simone Biles being a black female, very few people in the heavily liberal media want to be seen as a person who is criticizing a black female. We all know this. When I did the video about Otani and Stephen A. Smith, I gave you the rankings in the Victim Olympics. I told you that Asians were in first place, black people were in second place, and LGBTQ were in third place. Well, the rankings have changed already, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not black people that have gone into first place, it's black females. Black females are number one right now in the Victim Olympics. Asian Americans are now in second, and LGBTQ, they are in a distant third because nobody's talking about them right now. So this is where we're at. And I say that in a tongue-in-cheek way, but I mean it in a serious way, in that criticizing these people in this order is probably the worst thing that you could possibly do if you're going to be in the mainstream media, you're going to work in academia, you're going to be in the media. You can't criticize a black female. It's just not going to happen. So nobody's going to criticize Simone Biles, who has a job at a big media company or not a lot of people, let's say certain people with big followings on social media. They're not going to say anything that could possibly be looked at as criticism. There are people who are watching what I'm saying right now are going to look at this as criticism, even though I'm trying to be as measured and as balanced and objective as possible as a human being can be, looking at this situation from every side. But this is where we're at. And again, this is not a knock on a black female or an Asian person or an LGBTQ by saying your rankings in the Victim Olympics. You don't choose your rankings. All right? I don't see myself as a victim at all, but I had black people as number 2 in the Victim Olympics. Even though I'm black, I don't see myself as a victim, but there's a whole movement of people who want to see black people as victims, and this is just the way that it goes. So this is the situation that we have here in our world. So with Simone Biles, if I was talking to Simone Biles, I would tell her the following. I would inform her of the following. Actually, I would remind her, because these are probably not new to her. She has been labeled as the GOAT, G-O-A-T, greatest of all time when it comes to gymnastics. And she has embraced this title. Now, it'd be one thing if she pushed it off. Michael Jordan. People would say, Michael Jordan, are you the greatest basketball player of all time? Michael Jordan, every time, he would always defer. Even when he did his documentary last year, he would always defer. And he would always say, listen, it's not fair to call me the greatest of all time because everything that I did built on players that I watch. I built on things that I learned from other players, and other players are going to come along. They're going to build on top of me. So I don't think it's fair to call Michael Jordan the greatest of all time, because I couldn't have done what I did if it hadn't been for what other people did before me. Michael Jordan always said that, and still says it to this very day whenever people try to say he's the best of everybody else. Simone Biles embraced this role of being the greatest of all time in gymnastics. I don't know what she said about it, but I know she embraced it, because on her warm-up suit, or on her suit that she performs in, she had a logo with a goat on it, which is showing herself as a goat. She has embraced this whole thing of I'm the greatest of all time. Fine, Simone, if you embrace that title of being the greatest of all time, now it's time for you to step on the biggest stage and perform and prove why you're called the GOAT. You can't quit. The fact that she quit on the biggest stage when you have embraced this title of I'm the greatest of all time, she is owning it and accepting it and living in it, and now you want to quit on the biggest stage when you're mentally not in the right space, even if the reason why you don't compete is because you're not mentally in the right space. Well, understand, being the greatest of all time is not just about your physical capabilities. It's about mentally being in the space of going out there and showing everybody, hey, some of you might be wondering why they call me the GOAT, or some of you might be wondering if I've slipped a little bit. Some of you might be thinking, well, maybe she isn't that good. Let me prove to you why I am that good. That's all part of the mental approach. And the mental approach is connected to the physical approach. So if her mental approach wasn't in the right place, if the pressure got to her, if she got the yips, as we say, if mental health is slowing her down from performing and showing everybody why she's the greatest, then that is a chink in the armor of calling yourself the greatest of all time. That's just the truth of the situation. I don't care if you're a fan of Simone Biles, if you're a detractor of Simone Biles, if you're a hater, if you are completely indifferent to gymnastics, this is the truth of the situation. Your mental approach and your physical approach both go into you proving that you're the best. And if you are walking around owning and embracing the fact that people are calling you the greatest and you're calling yourself the greatest, you got to show up and perform. The fact that she didn't show up and perform, or the fact that she pulled out in the middle of the performance, is a knock against her and against her title, the title that she has embraced of calling herself the greatest of all time. Now, I do think she has a chance to redeem herself and kind of make this part of the situation go away if she competes in the individual competitions next week and she dominates all of them and wins all of those, and she gets 4 or 5 more gold medals. Then people will probably forget a little bit more easily about this part right here of her quitting on her teammates at the gymnastics competition. And by the way, did she quit on her team? Yes, she did. She did quit on her team. I want to make sure that I'm being clear on that. She did, because she pulled out. She has a certain role on that team. She is clearly the best player on the team. And she's saying, well, something's up with my mindset. I can't go out there and compete in the middle of the competition. It'd be one thing if she said, I'm not going to compete in the Olympics a month ago. So the Olympic team, the gymnastics team, could say, all right, well, we know we don't have her. Let's figure out who we do have, and let's get ready to compete with what we got. There's another thing, though. You show up. You get into the competition. We're expecting you to deliver at this level. This person's going to do this. They're going to do this. Everybody has their role. And now you're like, well, you know what? I'm just not able to play my role. So I'm going to pull out and cite mental health. And that's a whole different thing. And when you look at every other sport, basketball player is not going to leave the game in the second quarter because they're not having a good game. And they say, well, something's up with my mental health. I'm not mentally in the right space to go out there and perform. And for the most part, that person's not going to be applauded. And if they were, I would have an issue with that, because this is just the essence of sports. This is the culture of sports, that you got to go out there and perform, because it is a performance-based business. If you don't perform, I understand your mindset is the reason why you didn't perform, but you're expected to perform because you call yourself the best. This is why we put your name on the billboards. This is why your face is on TV. You got to go out there and live up to the expectations that have been set for you, and you have embraced these. You decided to keep competing, then hey, you got to own everything that comes with it. This is the game. The game, ladies and gentlemen, is not you just taking the parts that are most comfortable for you. It is you accepting everything that comes with the game. Everything that comes with the game, if you call yourself the best at what you do, is the attention, is the fans, is the expectations, is the competition that's trying to beat you. It's your teammates expecting you to pull off miracles. That's all part of the game. And does this have an effect on your mental health? Yes. This does have an effect on your mental health. It does have an effect on your mindset. Yes, there's a lot of pressure. Yes, I completely understand that Simone Biles is going through a level of pressure that most of us will never experience in our lives, whether in sports or in anything else. You embraced it. You owned it. You accepted it. You called yourself the GOAT after everybody else called you the GOAT. You got to take everything that comes with being the GOAT. And she didn't do it. She dropped the ball in that situation. Again, in that situation, she dropped the ball. She can redeem herself and kind of push that to the back burner if she shows up in these individuals and kills it. People will kind of forget about it and it'll go away, and people will say, look, she took some time for her mental health, came back and dominated. It's all good. That'll move off the front page of the newspaper, and then we'll move on to whatever the next story happens to be. But we got to be clear that that is what happened, and that's what it is. Now, when it comes to mental health, there are a lot of people who are involved in mental health, talking about mental health, people who are advocates for mental health. I think everybody's somewhat of an advocate. Everybody understands the mental is part of life for every human being. One thing that I think that we as a society need to become wary of, and we need to be really paying attention to, is I don't want mental health to become this kind of catch-all shield that people can use anytime they're in a situation and they're either not performing or don't want to perform, or there's some aspect of the job that they're not really feeling in that moment, and then they say, oh, well, mental health. And then everybody comes running to their aid and to their defense and saying, well, can't criticize them, mental health. Or can't say anything negative about that person, mental health. Or there's nothing wrong with what they did, mental health. We got to be careful that it doesn't get used so much that the value of the phrase actually stops meaning anything. And I think that was what I had to say when Osaka, the tennis player, went out there and she cited mental health after she started off by saying, I'm just not going to talk to the media. It was a power move that she pulled off. She floated the trial balloon to social media. Social media accepted it. And then she tried it with the bosses, the money people, and they said, that ain't going to work. And then she said, oh, mental health, I'm going to pull out. And mental health kind of became the catch-all shield for all the flack that she was starting to get. And look, she lost in the Olympics. Michael Jordan has lost in basketball games. Tom Brady has lost in baseball. LeBron James lost in the first round of the playoffs this previous season. You can be the best at what you do and still lose. But you got to take your L. If you pull out in the middle of the competition, what would happen to Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, LeBron James pull out in the middle of the competition and say, well, you know what? Mentally, I just didn't have it today. So, I just decided in the second quarter that I'm just not going to finish it. I'll let the backup come in. The rest of your team's looking at you crazy. The rest of the team's looking at you funny. Now, those are male sports, and there's a little bit different expectation when it comes to men in sports than when it comes to females, especially with things like mindset and mental health. And that is a cultural thing that I think is just around sports, period. And some people are going to say, well, that needs to change. It needs to be, men need to feel like they can be comfortable doing what Simone Biles did. I say, again, when you give yourself the label and you accept the check and you show up, and the team is expecting you to deliver a certain level because that's your role on the team, you got to show up and deliver on your role. And if you don't, you got to own that. And it can't be, oh, well, it's my mental health, so everybody got to back up off me. No, you got to accept that because you accepted the role. And you got to accept everything that comes with the game. So all that being said, I think I said everything I need to say on this topic of Simone Biles when it comes to mental health. We'll see what she ends up doing next week. I think if she competes, it'll push this story, again, off the front page of the paper. People will forget about it. If she does not compete in the rest of the Olympics, then, yeah, this is going to follow her. And people are going to keep talking about it. And not until she competes again is she going to even have the option of erasing the fact of what happened in this situation. And why? That's just how it is. Because she decided to stand on this pedestal. People put her on this pedestal, and she stood on it proudly and has soaked in the attention. She takes the endorsement money. She takes the fans. She called herself the GOAT when everybody else called her the GOAT first. All right, you got to own everything that comes with being the GOAT. And what comes with being the GOAT is the blame and the criticism when you don't show up. Now, if she would have competed and lost, that's one thing. To compete and quit in the middle of the competition, that's another thing. And if you're calling yourself the GOAT, then you got to own that. That's just what it is, folks. Hate it or love it. All that said, here's my book called The Third Day. You know what this book is about? It's about how you show up and push yourself to bring your best effort even when you are not feeling at your greatest. It's the exact kind of book that Simone Biles could have read the day before that what happened in that debacle with the gymnastics team. This might have helped her push through and get through that situation. I don't know. I don't know her exact same situation, but that's what this book is exactly about. Had she read it, maybe we wouldn't even be talking about this right now, and I'd be talking about something else. You can get this book for free. The link is down below. It's thirddaybook.com. All you got to do is claim your free copy of the book, cover the shipping. I'll ship it to you wherever you are worldwide, and send me a text, 305-384-6894. Tell me the best insight you got from this video. And it is 88 degrees and humid down here in South Florida. It is dog days of summer. It is so hot out here. You wouldn't believe it, but I ain't complaining. We're going to push through it and do what we got to do. It's like I just told you. Third day, we show up anyway. Work on your game. Dre all day. We out.